Intern Interviews, the series where I talk to people I've never met about things unrelated to the pandemic. Also, it's fun, hopefully. Today's guest is Alexis Milligan. Okay, I have to ask you a question because I've been curious since day one. Because you are known by some in the company as Spike.
Yes, Spike is a nickname that TC gave me. It's just a nice thing. It's very Shaw specific. There was a couple of donors that were like, what's her real name? They only had ever known me as Spike.
I have to be honest with you, the thing that I immediately thought of was the character in Land Before Time. I was like, anyway, I just wondered if there was a connection. And so talk to me a little bit about your work, because your title at Shaw, and I tried to actually look it up right before, but I was locked out of the Shaw website. So I don't know. But what is your title officially?
Well, I have two jobs. So the first is that I'm a movement director, and I can explain what that is in just more in detail.
Yeah, I mean, that's the next question, because everyone watching this is like, what is that?
It is not a choreographer, but there is choreography potentially involved. And then the other job that I have is I'm part of the coaching department. So there's a number of us who are coaches who come in to work individually with the performers in the company. So the thing with movement direction is that I have two parts. The first part is that I get to be a part of the whole creative team. So I'm there from the beginning. I'm in conversations with the designers and lighting designers, set designers, costume designers, the director, anybody else who's a part of that creative team. And I'm involved in those discussions before rehearsals even start. So movement and physical bodies are taken in as a consideration for landscape. And then the second part is actually working with the actors individually to get them to a place where they can take on that vision. And we're working with, preventative injury measures, and we're working with intimacy. We're working with any kind of basic physical interactions that the actors might encounter. Those are all sort of more on an individual basis.
And I would imagine that interaction with the director varies depending on who the director is, right? That there are some directors where that's a real simpatico kind of thing that's happening. I don't know why this means simpatico, but it does.
I'm all into the physical.
My downstairs neighbor's baby is crying, so I'm hoping that Nick isn't hearing that sound in.
Yeah, I totally plugged my kids in.
The other side of things that I know you from, because I was meant to be working on Flesh, of course, and that Flesh has a major puppet element, and that you were you were the puppet master, for lack of a better term. Tell me a little bit about your experience with puppetry and how that sort of has fed into movement and to your work overall.
Oh, I think it's the backbone. It's really the whole thing. I picked up my first puppet when I was 14 years old, part of a big production out here of the Nutcracker that happens every year. So every time I came home from school, Christmas or the summer, I'd say, hey, Jim, how's it going? I'm here.
Hey, Jim.
Jim, it's me. I'm here. I'm home from Toronto. But I had the most amazing ground to learn from these amazing people.
Yeah.
And that instilled in me that passion of what magic puppetry is.
When people think of Shaw, they probably don't necessarily think right away of, and a movement coach and a puppetry specialist and, all of these kinds of elements. But actually, it's a huge part of the work of the festival. And
that's the most beautiful thing about working with movement and really with puppetry is that I just feel like the biggest kid. And I think it just expands our idea of what theater is. And I think sometimes we can get blinders on that it's this thing and this is what to expect. And we all do it very, very well. And it's hard to break out of that sometimes. I think that maybe in this interview series, you should ask your interviewees to ask you one question about you, because I know nothing about you.
I'm into that. That's a great thing. Okay, I have to do a rapid fire first, and then let's do that.
Okay, rapid fire. Oh, I'm so shit at these.
No, it's going to be so good. Like, if you weren't an artist, a theater artist, what do you think you would be doing?
Archaeology.
Really?
Yes, 100%. I almost went into it.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
wine-wise, if you drink wine? White or red?
Bubbles.
Ooh, I like that. That's a nice little twist. Sandals or shoes?
Hmm. Shoes.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
East Coast or West Coast? I guess I already know the answer. Okay, what's your question for me? I love this idea.
Where did you first get your love for what made you go into theater? Where were you? How did that happen?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know if I know. Like, I think it was always sort of there.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, when I was young, took me to the Shaw Festival and to the Stratford Festival once a year. I think because they just thought that they should, like that it was sort of part of being a well-rounded person. My parents are not theater people at all. And I'm pretty grateful that I sort of had to forge my own path in that way. This was great. Thank you so much for being my first in the remix of intern views.
I was like, oh God, okay.
I'll make sure that Nick makes us both sound smart.
I was going to say half an hour later.